Hello students, welcome to Learn Easy with Kobe. So today we are going to talk about the fundamental of business, and this is the third. Today's topic will be on evolution of business, right? So before we move on to this particular area, just remember the key terms, which is direct production or self-production, indirect production, and the barter system, along with the specialization. Alright, just imagine this particular story. Years before, there was a skillful hunter who always had the intention to go hunt anything he see to feed him and his family. This process happened for so long. One day there was a very bad weather which had no way for him to get out of his cave for hunting. That moment was so hopeless, and he had no idea to help his family to survive. They had only water to survive for almost a week. That moment helped him to think for alternative options to save food or make other plans to preserve food, which helped him to think of hunting more, preserving, and working on farming. That initiative worked well, but not for a very long time. Gradually, he thought of putting some effort on farming. Once he worked hard on producing to fulfill his needs, he was able to recognize he is being specialized in farming, which helped him to produce more with the time. This led to excess production. That was actually starting to become waste of food, so which he thought of other options to exchange those excess food with others. So he started finding people who are making something better he could exchange. Alright, so just remember the key things that I ask you to highlight, which is direct production or self-production, indirect production, which led to specialization, and the barter system. So it's very simple. What is direct production or self-production? When you produce something for your personal use, that is considered as direct production. When you produce something for your use as well as others' use, and if you are able to exchange with others, that's considered as the indirect production. So when you start exchanging goods by exchanging goods with goods, so that is considered as the barter system. So as I told you, remember we will be discussing more on these particular topics. Alright, so what is specialization? It is nothing, it's very simple. Just imagine a situation where you started learning riding bicycle. So at the initial stage you would have struggled, you would have lots of obstacles, you would have fallen a lot. But gradually when you start practicing more and more, you would have found that easy for you to ride bicycle. So which you would have become specialized in riding bicycle. So what is specialization? Specialization is a method of production whereby an entity focuses on the production of a limited scope of goods to gain a greater degree of efficiency. In simple terms, when you take an example, see a production company where they produce more and more, so they become specialized in that particular production company. You can take example as CBL, Munchie, right? These are good examples of being specialized in manufacturing biscuits. So many countries, for example, specialize in producing the goods and services that are native to their part of the world, and they trade them for the other goods and services. So Sri Lanka is specialized in manufacturing tea, so which is a native to our part of country. So the barter system had certain difficulties when sharing goods. So what are they? So barter system had many difficulties which were faced by the people, like lack of double coincidence of wants, which is, for instance, if you are specialized in manufacturing biscuits and you have more biscuits, see another person that you are willing to exchange your goods of excess biscuits, that person is also manufacturing more biscuits. So there is a problem where both are having the same want. Lack of common unit of value, where you find difficulties in valuing what you have produced more. For instance, if you are manufacturing more and more of, say, potatoes, and there's another person who is manufacturing more and more of beans, So you have a issue of assessing the common value of these two products. Difficulty of future payments or contractual payments, and the difficulty of storage or value and transfer of value. So these were the difficulties, reasons why the system failed. So what was the solution? The solution came up with the money. Money was the solution for this particular part. So evolution of money. Early stage, they used milk to exchange goods, and they started using gold, then metal coins, paper money, plastic cards. But in the modern area, we have electronic money, and it has grown up to something called cryptocurrency. So the usage of money, it is a unit of account, it is a store of value, it's a medium of exchange, and it is a standard of deferred payment. So remember, we are discussing on the evolution of business. So with the introduction of money, we were able to find out something called trade, which is buying and selling. So trade stands for selling and buying of goods in exchange of money. So you use money as a exchange of medium, and then you buy and sell. Two or more parties are involved in it for definite. However, commerce stands for the entire process of delivering products from manufacturers to consumer. So if you are involving only on buying and selling, that is trade. But along with trade, if you have the interference or support of transportation, banking, insurance, and warehousing, that is considered as commerce. Alright, so let's see what are the auxiliary services or the business support services. Banking, transportation, insurance, communication, and warehousing. Right? Let's have a brief introduction on these areas, but we will be discussing in deep. So banking is simple, banking activities where you have savings accounts, you have credit facilities or lending facilities, you have current accounts. The transportation, we have three ways of transportation where you can use sea, water, or you can road, right? And you can use airway transportations. So insurance is very simple. You have assurance and insurance. And communication, we have verbal communication, written communication, and we can use sometimes signs or symptoms for communication as well. So warehousing is simple terms, it's storing goods or services. Alright? Alright, so today we are in the globalization era, or we are in the modern era, which has developed us for the trade, commerce, e-commerce. Right? What is e-commerce? It is the buying and selling of goods and services, or the transmitting of funds or data over an electronic network, primarily the internet. So these business transactions occur either as a business to business, a business to consumer, a consumer to consumer, or a consumer to business. So nothing much, you all are involved in buying on online platforms, so that is considered as the e-commerce. So let's have a brief understanding on the evolution of business. So we have two portions under business. One is commerce and the industries. So commerce is a part that is very important for you, where it is a combination of trade and the auxiliary services. So the auxiliary services, which are banking, transport, insurance, communication, warehousing. So the trade is divided into two. One is domestic or home trade, and the other one is foreign trade. So on the domestic trade, we have retail and wholesale. On the foreign trade, we have import and export. Alright, so we are moving on to something very important and which you are more common with, which is globalization. So what is globalization? It is the process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments worldwide. So globalization has accelerated since the 18th century due to advance in transportation and communication technology. So today, the entire world has moved from one place to the entire space. So the entire world is under one roof. That is considered as the globalization, where you can buy anything from any part of the world. So let's see the impact of globalization. So it has been a monopoly power of multinationals. They have become, monopoly power in the sense where companies become giants. You can call about companies like Facebook, Google, Coca-Cola, or these are monopolies. They're having the power of making decisions in the world. Structural unemployment, where sometimes we start migrating to other countries to find employment. So this might sometimes make unemployment issues in certain part of the world. So tax avoidance, yes, because the entire world is under one roof, sometimes we will not get enough tax payments. Increased capital and labor mobility, that is for sure. Economies of scale, where the cost per unit production has gone down gradually because we have enough resources from the entire part of the world. Greater competitions, we have lower prices. Increased trade, we have greater choices of goods, so we have enough improved trade. So how globalization could affect a business? It can increase competition, opening larger, more diverse markets, increased flow of trade, capital, information and people, sharing technology, sharing knowledge and promoting a diversified workforce. These are the effects to the business. So there are certain disadvantages of globalization as well. So intense competition, where sometimes local producers or local companies might struggle to come up to that standard, where they might find difficulties to compete in the market. Widening of gap between rich and poor countries, that happens because most of the global companies or multinational companies are from developed nations. They come and invest on developing nations, where the companies are forming up in developing nations or poor countries might struggle to beat up or meet up their standards, so which might increase the gap between rich and poor. Hard of a smaller business to establish for themselves. Alright, so just a brief understanding on what we spoke today. So that's the evolution of business, where we started from direct production, indirect production, and we move on to the barter system and specialization, and then gradually we move on to the commerce with the trade, and then we are in the globalization with the support of e-commerce. Alright, thank you for learning. Keep learning. Let's meet on the next topic, which is business activities.